Have you ever stopped to think about why our world looks the way it does? Why two-thirds of all people on Earth are squeezed into just 4 small pockets of the planet? Well, today, we're going to dig into the powerful, often invisible forces that shape our world, from population booms to the lines we draw on our maps. To get our heads around this, we're going to tackle 3 really big questions. First, who are we as a human family of almost 8 billion? Second, where are we all going? And maybe the most important question of all, what are the lines, both real and imagined, that divide us?
So let's start at the beginning with the most fundamental question in human geography. Where is everybody? And as you're about to see, the answer is anything but random.
I mean, check this out. It turns out our distribution across the planet is incredibly lopsided. 2 out of every 3 people live in one of just 4 regions. That's wild. This insane concentration didn't just happen by accident, you know? It's the result of thousands of years of history, climate, and culture. But the real question is, how do these populations change over time?
Okay, so to understand how populations grow and stabilize, geographers have this really powerful tool called the demographic transition model. Just think of it like a roadmap that pretty much predicts how a country's population is going to change as it develops and modernizes.
And this model shows this journey that's surprisingly predictable. For almost all of human history, we were stuck in stage 1. High birth rates, but also high death rates, so things were pretty stable. Then, bam! The Industrial Revolution kicks off stage 2. All of a sudden, sanitation and medicine cause death rates to just plummet, and you get a massive population explosion. In stage 3, as societies get richer and, crucially, women get more educated, birth rates start to drop. And finally, you hit stage 4, where you get stabilization, kind of like what we see in a lot of Europe and Japan today.
And what's so cool is you can actually see a country's entire demographic story in a single chart. Take a look at the pyramid on the left. That's a classic stage 2 country. See how wide that base is? That's a ton of young people, a sure sign of explosive growth. Now compare that to the stage 4 country on the right. It's much more like a column, right? That shows an older, more stable population. 2 shapes telling 2 completely different stories about the past and the future.
But here's the thing. Populations don't just grow and shrink in one spot. They move. Migration is one of the most powerful forces shaping our world today. So let's get into why people would decide to leave everything they've ever known for a new home.
You know, when you really get down to it, every single decision to migrate boils down to a balance of 2 forces. Push factors, which are all the reasons to leave a place, and pull factors, which are all the things that attract you to somewhere new. And these factors usually fall into 3 main buckets. So an economic push could be no jobs at home, while the pull is the dream of a great career somewhere else. A political push could be a terrible civil war, pulling people toward a country that's known for being safe and stable. And of course, there's environmental. A push might be a devastating hurricane, pulling people toward a place with a much better climate.
Ultimately, it really all boils down to this one simple idea. Whether it's for a better job, a safer life, or just a more stable environment, people move because they're searching for something better. It's a fundamental part of the human story, and it always has been.
Okay, so we have these huge populations growing and moving all over the globe. That brings up another huge question. How do we group ourselves? And this brings us to the lines we draw, not just the political lines we call borders, but the cultural lines of ethnicity too. Now this is so important. We use the words ethnicity and nationality almost interchangeably, but they can be completely different things. Ethnicity is about your shared culture and ancestry, your heritage. Nationality, on the other hand, is about legal citizenship. It's the passport you carry, and a whole lot of conflict in the world happens when those 2 identities just don't line up.
The Kurdish people are a perfect and honestly a heartbreaking example of this tension. They are a distinct ethnic group, a nation with a shared culture, and there are over 30 million of them. But they don't have a country to call their own. Their homeland is literally carved up by the borders of 4 different nations. This kind of mismatch, an ethnic nation without a political state, is one of the biggest drivers of conflict all around the world.
But you know, the lines we draw aren't just on maps between countries. Let's zoom in and look inside these nations, because even there, progress and opportunity are almost never shared equally. And one of the biggest dividing lines of all is gender.
So when you hear that a country is developed, what does that actually mean? Well, it's not just about money, not by a long shot. True development is about the well-being of its people. So the United Nations looks at really key things like access to education and good health care to get the full picture.
And to really measure inequality, they have this incredible tool called the Gender-Related Development Index, or GDI. The GDI is so smart because it doesn't just look at the national average. It specifically measures the gap between men and women in key areas like income, education, and how long they live. It shows you the inequality that's often totally hidden in the bigger numbers.
And this bar chart, wow, it shows a really stark reality in many parts of the world. Just look at that gap in literacy rates between men and women. This isn't just a sad statistic about education. It's one of the single biggest breaks on a country's ability to develop. I mean, think about it. When you hold back half your population, you're holding back the entire society.
Okay, so let's just take a second. We've got these huge interconnected challenges: stabilizing population growth, managing migration, trying to solve ethnic conflicts, and closing this massive inequality gap. It's a lot. So the big question is, how in the world do we even start to tackle all of this?
Well, how is the world trying to face these challenges head-on? Believe it or not, there's actually a global game plan.
And that plan is called the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. This is the follow-up to the earlier Millennium Development Goals, but it is way bigger and way more ambitious. It's basically a shared blueprint for creating a better, more sustainable future for every single person on the planet.
And this is the magic part. This is where it all clicks into place. The SDGs directly target the exact issues we've been talking about. Good health and well-being, that helps stabilize populations. Gender equality, it gets its own dedicated goal, SDG 5. Peace, justice, and strong institutions, that's how you begin to resolve ethnic conflicts. And reducing inequalities, that tackles the root causes of migration. It's all connected.
Which really leaves us right here with one final, massive question. We live in a world that is more connected than at any other point in human history. And we're facing challenges that don't care about our borders. So are we actually ready to work together to solve them? The answer to that question is going to define the next chapter for our human planet.